labeling that I've been subjected to.
How much is enough?
Enough is enough.
Mr. Deputy President. Mr. Deputy President, we'd like to conclude this conversation with the election preparation. We're just 2 weeks away to the August 9th general election. You've previously said that, yes, you are willing and ready to accept the outcome of the election. Are there any circumstances under which you will not accept the outcome of the election? For a minute.
Accepting the outcome of the election includes going to court if you have an issue with the results. That's accepting the outcome of the election. Okay, you say my competitor has won, I have a doubt, and I will go to court. Why I made that deliberate statement is because we have had a situation in Kenya where every other election we foment a crisis around refusing to accept the outcome of election. And it has cost us lives, property, and many other things. And I needed to be on record, and which I am, that I will accept the outcome of this election. I know that the people of Kenya will make a choice. If it is me, I will prepare to govern the country on day one. If it is not me, I will accept that my competitor has won. If I have any issue, I will go to court and accept the outcome of the court.
Honorable Ruto, we've come to the end of this conversation tonight. We would like to give you 2 minutes to give us your closing statement tonight.
I think it is very important for us to look at this election against what is the competition. Our competitors have run away from this debate in total contempt to the people of Kenya, because it's not William Ruto who is going to make this choice. It is the people of Kenya that we are speaking to. They have very little regard for the people of Kenya. They think the deep state is going to make the decision. They think that the system is going to make the decision. I want to tell the people of Kenya tonight that they are the ones who will make the decision on the 9th of August. Their vote is what will make the next government happen. And I want to encourage them to disregard the propaganda, the mobilization of chiefs and all these people and the provincial administration and the whole of this contempt and madharau, and tell them, tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 wa Kenya, ninyi ndio mtaamua serikali ambayo inakuja. Na mimi nawaambia, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza itapunguza gharama ya maisha. Tutahakikisha kwamba watoto wetu milioni 5 wako na ajira. Tutahakikisha kwamba kila mmoja wetu anaweza kwenda hospitali na kuwe na bima ya afya, na tunaweza pia tutahakikisha kwamba kuna maji na watoto wetu wanasoma. Tuko na mpango. Tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 waamuke, wapige kura, watengeneze serikali, tuende mbele pamoja.
Shukran sana, Mr. Deputy President. Honorable Dr. William Ruto, thank you for making the time for us tonight.
Thank you very much.
That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and the viewers here in the audience, following this at home, and of course those here as well, we have to end it here for now. Our appreciation to Dr. William Ruto of the United Democratic Alliance for honoring voters with this duty to a public televised national debate. We thank you again.
And indeed, that marks the end of the 2022 Joint Media Presidential Debate Series. The next presidential debate shall come to you without fail, and inshallah, in July 2027, at a date to be announced by the Joint Media Presidential Debate Secretariat. We thank you for watching. My name is Eric Latif of Spice FM and KTN News.
And I'm Yvonne Okwara of Citizen Television. Good night.
All right, the 90 minutes have gone, and my panel here saying they have flown by because we have seen an engaging session. I mean, it wasn't a debate that we had expected, but no less engaging. How to, and very quickly in this post-debate analysis, we don't have that much time, but just some key points that you saw in this debate. How did it go for the Deputy President?
Well, I think first of all we have to, thank the Deputy President for coming. I think it was an important national moment. I think I agree with him. The people will decide at the polls, and that is the nature of our democratic process. I think again we are trapped in a debate that tries to distance everybody from the Jubilee administration. When, to be honest, I don't think there were fundamental differences between the Deputy President and the President on many issues. If I had the time, I would go through this. I think the displacement happened with the handshake. And therefore it is much more of a political dynamic rather than a policy dynamic. And lastly, I think...
all right, the Irungu syndrome. The Deputy President is coming out, and so we have to... Yes, okay, let's go to Ken Moredi and just see.
We didn't quite get to down to the real manifesto issues. I would have hoped that my competitor would have been here, so that Kenyans can have the benefit of looking at both sides. Unfortunately, and it is understandable, that there is only one plan in this election, the Kenya Kwanza plan. The other side have sketches, and that's why they are not here. We are the only side that has a plan on fighting corruption, conflict of interest, state capture. The other side are actually hostages. And in fact, they are sponsored by the people who are actually culprits of conflict of interest. And that's why they're not here, because they do not want to offend their benefactors. Unfortunately for all of us, we didn't have the benefit of the other side, but I think the people of Kenya have information. They know why they will go to vote on the 9th of August.
Now, how would you describe this decision by your competitor not to be at this particular debate? Now that you're saying that you've gotten the opportunity to articulate your issues, but yet you believe that he should have been here, how would you describe his not being here?
As I have said, he is not here because he doesn't have a coherent plan. He cannot support a coherent discussion. He cannot sustain a debate on issues because even in the public space, the only conversation is about the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. There is no conversation on the other side because there is none. They don't have a plan. The other issue is my competitor is running away, literally, from any discussion on matters corruption, matters conflict of interest, matters state capture, because they sponsor him. And everybody knows that he's a project. In fact, nobody knows who the real candidate is. Maybe when you people send the invitation, you didn't specify. I think there must have been a problem as to who you had invited to come to this debate, whether it was the real candidate or the project.
Well, also there was the appearance that was made by Mr. Waihiga Mwaure, and he actually debated and took issue with a number of the number of issues that have been there, and also presented his manifesto. What would you say about the other candidates that you're running with now that you've enumerated more about Raila Odinga?
Well, I did not listen to the discussion with Mwaure, so I don't want to really get into that. But I think the people of Kenya have a choice. I mean, I'm sure they've listened to him, they've listened to all the other candidates, and the people of Kenya will make an informed choice on the 9th of August.
Thank you very much, sir. That is UDA presidential candidate Dr. William Ruto saying that this time round he believes that he has articulated his issues, but he believes he would have been given more time to articulate, now that he says that there are some issues that they believed that have not been asked. But he has described Raila Odinga, and he is not showing up for this debate, as running away from the real issues, running away from the debate, actually going as far as insisting that we as media might have sent the wrong invite, insisting that he is someone's project. But right now, I'll take it back to you, Joe, for the panel discussion and probably to get deeper into what Dr. William Ruto has said at this particular exit press conference.
Very well. Kennedy Moredi, thank you very much. And very quickly, Houghton, I promise you there'll be no interruption this time. There's no one coming, there's no one leaving. Please finish your thoughts.
So my thought was essentially that there's been this attempt to try and route everything back to Jubilee. And I think that's not helpful. I think we need to look at the policy platforms of each of the parties, on the strength of the parties, and the past performance of the candidates who are coming before us to rule. The last point is this, that I did like the point that he mentioned about accepting electoral defeat. I think it is so important in an election where we have over 14,000 candidates running for 1,500 positions, that people start thinking psychologically, preparing themselves for the off-ramp and to do something differently.
That you can win or lose. Now, Dr. Emmanuel Manyasi, Executive Director of USAWA, you came at the tail end of this, but we are glad to have you nonetheless. Not so much about education, which is your pet subject, but a lot of things about equality, which I am sure you're also very keen about. What stood out for you in this conversation that has just ended?
Thank you. I listened to this conversation, I listened to the earlier one. I get an impression our leaders don't appreciate the magnitude of the problems we have.
Yes.
And if they do, they haven't thought through the solutions that they're offering. Because I think so far what we've had is the normal things we've had many times over the years. We will do this, we will do that. But I feel strongly that it was unfortunate to miss education. Unfortunately, because that is the first crisis the next president will face. We have 2.5 million children who must go to our secondary schools that are already congested. That must happen in January. And then we must prepare for another 2.5 or 2.6 in 2024, because we must have 2 double intakes into secondary school to phase out 844. I had wanted to hear that conversation, especially because the candidate who came, there has been attribution to his campaign that they will want to abolish CBC. And so a lot of head teachers, a lot of owners of private schools out there who are being encouraged by the current CS to put up the secondary stream to accommodate CBC are anxious. They don't know whether it is a good investment to make. It would have been important that the candidate responds to that, because I hold the view that the candidates who didn't turn up are actually eventually going to respond to what has been discussed today. Yes. And so any issue that has been tabled today will exhaustively be discussed by even those who didn't show up, because they're going to respond to it. And so it was a big miss for me, but I'm happy that this discussion has begun. I hold the view that it will continue, and I invite Kenyans to engage with this discussion beyond today.
All right. Professor Witi, what did you hear or did not hear? How did this go tonight?
So first off, I want to congratulate Deputy President Ruto for showing up. And I want to say to Raila Odinga, shame on you for doing what they did in 2017. When they didn't show up, you're basically paying back with the same coin, but the people you're spiting are the Kenyans who are going to troop to the polling stations to vote for you. So this is a problem. Now, I find this conversation to have been very revealing. We've now seen the many dimensions of Ruto, and I counted 4. Ruto the victim, Ruto the powerless deputy president, Ruto the limited deputy, and then Ruto the person who wields a lot of influence. So I think this duplicity in terms of how Ruto presented himself is problematic. He was very incoherent on fundamental policy questions, especially around agriculture. What is the focus? It seems to me, and it is very disconcerting, that all these candidates think that the solution to solving the productivity problem is to throw fertilizer to the soil. That's not the solution to agriculture in this country. It also marginalizes the fact that a majority of the producers in the space that we have for productive utilization of land actually are pastoralists who are in the very devastated semi-arid and arid lands that are completely underinvested. And Ruto was not very clear on that. On the question of debt, he thinks the solution is to stop borrowing. The solution is to cut spending and right-size government. There's a revenue cliff as well that he also doesn't talk about. So I think he was very flippant, and it was just really difficult to understand how it is so easy for William Ruto on the campaign trail on a stamp speech to be extraordinarily articulate and to be completely rudderless when he's subjected to questions. And I think his lack of mastery or an understanding of the granularity of running government is worrying, given the fact that he has tremendous resources and a team around him that should have prepared him much better for this. So I think this was a bad night for presidential candidate William Ruto.
Sheila, there was some conversation about what you said is your pet subject, the whole question of integrity, leadership, corruption, and all of these things. Yeah. What did you hear, and did this conversation give you some hope that perhaps it might be dealt with if Dr. William Ruto takes over as president in the next 2 weeks?
On leadership and integrity, he talks about, in terms of the approach to fighting corruption, he says is to institutionalize the fight against corruption. I think that has already been done, and that's why we still have a problem. We focus so much on legislation, on policy, on building institutions, but we're not looking at the real meat of it, which is ethics and what we're talking about earlier. And both sides, I feel, I've heard Azimio speak about this as well. You know, they're very uncomfortable with the issue around leadership, with integrity, ethics, morals, because in both camps, they're surrounded by people who have certain questions. And I think that's why, for me, the deputy president didn't articulate himself well on that aspect. But on the questions around his acquisition of property, what I would have wanted to hear from him is a commitment that he will subject himself to a lifestyle audit. I think these are valid questions that people have had in terms of how he has acquired property, and not just for him, but even for any other presidential candidate. We wouldn't expect less also from Raila Odinga, that they should actually promise that they will subject themselves to a lifestyle audit. Uhuru Kenyatta did, remember, in 2018. That never happened, but we need to actually ensure that this is done so that these public positions don't become an opportunity for self-enrichment, because it has, yeah? And I would have actually wanted him to even go ahead and promise to table documents in terms of how he has acquired that property, but we need to make that demand for both candidates. One last thing, I think it was important that we backpedaled, you know, to his time in office, even when he says when he was active and when he was not active. I mean, I thought he felt almost as helpless as I am as a Kenyan, but I think that he has to be held to account for his time in office. You can't just take credit for the good things and then try to evade failures of government.
All right, Wanjiru?
I think I'll pick up where Sheila has left off, and I agree. Well done to Honorable Ruto for coming today. Well done to the Kenya Kwanza team for, you know, having a manifesto that's been built based on public consultation. Ironically, this manifesto does not then go on to enshrine the right to public participation, and we are not sure if we'll continue to see the kind of questions raised by the media presenters to the deputy president being done as a culture, because the culture of answerability is about public leaders being answerable to the public and the public being able to ask difficult questions. And I think the one issue that comes out here is of trust. We are seeing the Kenya Kwanza campaign trying to rewrite the 5 years of the bromance, and the deputy president really at pains to paint himself as helpless when we know they were smiling at each other, making decisions together, and fist thumping and all of that, and a lot of abuse of office. We counted 19 corruption scandals in the past 3 years of the.
And we have run out of time.
Right,
Would you believe it?
Yes, yes.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great night here. Lots of conversations, not just here, but those that will continue for the next few days before the election, and perhaps even after the election. And we are beginning to wrap things up here. And so we are going to make one final location call to our men and women on the ground all around this campus. And I'll take you right now to Kennedy Mureithi and Rita Tinina.
Well, the purpose of this debate is for you who has registered as a voter to get any extra information that you have not gotten this far from the political rallies that have been held by the different politicians who are yearning to rule this country after the August elections. And what we do know is that 4 invitations were sent to the presidential candidates. 2 of them turned up and they have sold their manifesto. Have they been able to convince you? Well, that is only a question you can answer on the 9th of August 2022. But here at the Catholic University, we have followed it through from the first debate that involved the governor candidates of Nairobi. Then we went to the deputy presidential nominees until today, when it culminated into the presidential candidates, and they have said what they needed to say.
Indeed, here at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa this evening, the 2 candidates, Agano Party presidential candidate Mwaure Wahiga, as well as the Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate, Deputy President Dr. William Ruto, have had the chance to articulate their policies. And this is away from the jeers, the cheers, and what you call theatrics of the political campaign rallies. And here, with the thorough interrogation of the moderators, of course, without their well-scripted speeches, they have had that chance to reach out to you as a voter at home. Whether or not the absence of the other candidates worked for them or against, or how they performed this evening, will no doubt be a matter of debate, especially on social media. From this end, at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, thank you for being with us. I hand it over to Lulu and Rashid.
We haven't said our names. My name is Kennedy Mureithi of NTV.
And I am Rita Tinina of KTN News.
Na mtazamaji, ili kuweza kufanikisha na kuweza kuwajibikia sura ya 12 ya katiba sehemu ya kwanza na sehemu ya pili, ilibidi mwamvuli wa wanahabari wawaalike wote wawaniaji urais hapa nchini Kenya. Wakaalikwa, wakaalikika, wawili wakaghairi, wawili wakafika, wakapokelewa. Wameingia moja kwa moja katika chumba cha mjadala. Maswali wakauliza, wakajibu, wakajaribu kuchachawizwa, wakasimama imara, wakajieleza. Kwa kweli itakuwa sisi ni watovu wa nidhamu na shukrani tusiposema asante kwa waliofika, manake wametendea haki mamilioni ya Wakenya walikuwa wamekaa kusikiliza kwa redio na kutizama kwa runinga.
Na mama, kwa hakika Rashid, wengi wanajiuliza siku hii ya leo, nani amefanya vyema, nani ameuza sera zake vyema, nani amebana kidogo. Lakini la hasha mtazamaji, hilo halikuwa kusudio letu. Kusudio letu ilikuwa ni kukunyoshea wewe mtazamaji barabara iliyo safi, barabara iliyonyoka, barabara ya tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 mwaka 2022, ya wewe mtazamaji kuweza kufanya maamuzi yaliyo bora, maamuzi sahihi. Kwa hivyo mtazamaji, tumekupeleka saluni kunyoa au kusonga, hiyo ni hiari yako.
Naam kabisa, hiyo ni uamuzi wako. Ikumbuka kwamba hili alikuweza kufanikishwa bila ushirikiano wa kudumu kutoka na watu tofauti kutoka vyombo vya habari tofauti. Kuwataja mmoja baada ya mwingine nikimkosea itakuwa dhambi, lakini nasema asante kwa wote waliohakikisha kwamba unapata mjadala kwa mpigo, kuanzia mjadala wa waniaji ugavana kaunti ya Nairobi, mjadala ule wa waniaji wenza wa urais, na siku hii ya leo ukapata fursa ya kujua mengi kuhusiana na sera na agenda za waniaji urais. Sisi hapa, mimi Rashid Abdalla na mwenzangu Lulu Hassan, tulikuwa tunapeperusha bendera ya Citizen TV. Hivi sasa kuna bendera moja pale ya NTV ambayo inapepea ikizungumza na wachanganuzi. Turudi kwake Joageo, alikunje busati hili kwa heshima, hadhi na taadhima.
All right, thank you very much, Rashid Abdallah and Lulu Hassan, wrapping things up there, out there, and we are just about to do that here, so I'll get some quick thoughts around this table before we finish, and I'll start with you, Dr. Manyasa. What are your final thoughts, 13 days to the election, 1 minute each?
I was frustrated that people are saying after that this debate will mean nothing, meaning that the illiterate Kenyans and the literate make their political decisions the same way. I am hoping that this conversation has made an impact on the voter, and that the discussion that ensues from here to August 9th makes an impact on how people vote.
Thank you very much, Sheila.
We have various challenges as a country, and so obviously the next government is going to inherit a lot of problems. And I would have actually wanted to hear more about what's their plan for their first 100 days in office, just to be sure that we'll have a good transition, looking at all the challenges that we have now. But that aside, I think we have just 2 weeks shy of the election. What I'd urge citizens who are watching is that it all depends on you. All these challenges that we have can only be brought about by solutions brought about by leaders with integrity.
Houghton, your final thoughts?
14 days from now,
tonight.
Kenyans go to the polls. I hope all of you who have registered, you will actually go to the polls and you will choose carefully your leadership, not just at the national level, but at all of the levels, county and constituency as well. I think the other point is that look for candidates that are committed to creating equality under the law, the right to health, the right to education, the right to housing, and freedom from extrajudicial killings, and also freedom from forced evictions. I think that's the future we have to lean into, and that's the future we must vote for on August the 9th.
Professor Awiti?
I think this, like many people have said, is a defining election. In many ways, the country needs transformative solutions. It is very interesting to read the specifications in the manifestos. It is also very enlightening to listen to the politicians and how much of their manifestos they really understand and can articulate. There's a worrying disconnect there, listening to Mwaure and listening to Ruto. And it begs the question, to what extent can we really hold them to the specifications of these manifestos if they don't really understand and internalize and are able to articulate them to a wider public? So let's go out there. There is still time for us to go through those manifestos. I think there will still be political opportunities for Kenyans to engage, but I think we need to be wise to really understand the consequences of our electoral decisions in 2022.
All right, Wanjiru, you get to have the last word on this.
Right, I think, thanks, Joe, and this is a difficult election, and I am left with questions, and maybe other Kenyans out there as well. And one of the questions for me is, by staying away from this debate, has Raila Odinga been able to distance himself enough from the worst excesses of the Jubilee administration? I'm also asking myself, if we are looking at William Ruto as a candidate, can we trust him with, the instruments of power, given the obvious shift of his positions and, really a lot of prevarication around his role in government? And then the final question is one that he raised around, can we trust the deep state or the state to deliver a credible, free and fair election for Kenyans? Yeah, so those are the questions.
All right, I think that's a good place to end it. So the candidates have been here, all four of them for the presidential candidate, and the rest that have been coming here since we started this series of debates on the 11th of July. They have come, they have spoken, you have listened. We over here in the media, we have discharged our responsibilities. Now the responsibility is turned over to you, the voter, because in the next 13 days, you will have to make that choice either way, both at the national level and at the county level in various positions for which people are contesting. That has been our responsibility, and we now turn it over to you. Thank you very much for being with us throughout this debate, for taking part in all the discussions, for sending us messages, and all the wonderful things that you've done to make this a success. We want to thank everybody who's been involved here, and we just want to say, let's go and have a great election. My name is Joe Agay of NTV. Have a lovely evening, and God bless.
what is a secondary school in Kenya? It ranges from 106 high-cost national schools educating 3% of the learners, where you find